Hello, buddy, and welcome back to NWCL Beyond the Boundary. My name is Cole Donnelly. Today I'm joined by Atherton Cricket Club. We have first team captain Jack Welch and second team vice captain Mike Tomlinson. How are you guys?
Good, thank you. You?
I'm very well, thank you very much.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Corby. Oh, well.
Brilliant. So, you guys haven't been on before. We had John Furyk on last year, your director of cricket. So, first of all, we'll just get you both to introduce yourselves. So, just tell us about yourself and your involvement at Atherton.
Uh, I'm first team captain at Atherton. I've played cricket at Atherton since I was probably 7 or 8. So, but there all my life, pretty much.
Yeah, but Mike Tomlinson. I've been there a little bit longer than Jack, so I've been there about 40 years now at the young age of 46. Been involved with the committee since I was about 18. Played predominantly second team cricket all my life there and all my junior cricket there.
Fantastic. So we'll go straight into the last season and we'll start with your first. Obviously, you didn't have a great season last year. You did get relegated back into the championship. It was a very close division. I think it was one game between you guys, Lostock and Padiham. Can you just describe how you thought last season went in the whole?
Disappointing, I think, really. I think we knew it was going to be tough, but I think throughout the season we probably didn't expect to get relegated with some of our performances. But yeah, where we finished in the league table, I don't think fully reflected how good we was, but we was there and we ended up there. So fortunately, that's how it went.
Yeah, and is anything you've reflected on last season? Is anything you could see which maybe was perhaps a contributing factor towards you getting relegated. So I think a lot of people come in here say availability is quite an issue, or sometimes they just lack quality, or they've had issues with pros going on early, overseas going on early. Would you say there's any factors that you saw from last season which ultimately maybe contribute to you getting relegated?
I think probably the main two things was probably ruthlessness. Like in that top division, we found out pretty quickly if you can be well on top of a game, and next thing you know, if you're not ruthless with it, you get beat. And I think another thing was probably our fielding wasn't good enough to that standard in the top division either. So those are two things we'll try and work on, and hopefully put them in place this season.
Yeah. And, in that first year, we obviously had 24 teams in one division. Then you were in the bottom half of that. And then you got promoted the year before last, and you played in top division last season. Did you think it was perhaps tougher than you thought, or did you think it was as difficult as you thought? What were your thoughts on the team in that division and how competitive it was?
I don't think it was tougher than we thought. I think it was as tough as we expected, really. And just it's like I said, the competitiveness of it was just the strength in depth of it was really high. It's like when you're playing teams in that bottom division, when you get teams 4, 5, 6 down, you sort of ball them out pretty quickly. Whereas in that top division, you could get teams 4, 5, 6 down, and they've got another 3 or 4 batters to come who can easily score runs against you. So there's positions like that where we need to be a bit more ruthless and try and put matches to bed.
Yeah, I think last season a lot of people said something similar where in that bottom division you could get team 4, 5 down, and then it won't be too difficult to get them all after that. But in the first team division, like you said, you're going back to number 8, number 9, number 10, who are all competent batters, and it's very difficult to actually ball a team out. You've been two added
Yeah.
bonus points, which it was hardly sought after last year. And I don't think, especially in the first half of the season, I don't think many teams actually balled a team out. So it was very difficult. But we'll go to your second team, which had a pretty decent season. You were Lawrence Cup finalists and you were promoted into Conference Two from the Conference Three division. You didn't quite win the league. I think Eagle won it last game of the season because it was abandoned. How did you think my last season went?
Yeah, really well. We had a good run. Cup run was good. Played a great Salisbury team in the final. They put on a great day, and we had a great day, even though we weren't on the winning end. Um, Overall in the season, I think we did really well. Yeah, shame the last game of the season got called off because it was us versus Eagly, and the winner would have won the league. I think they were probably as gutted as us, really. It would have been a good test for both teams. But we, second team wise, we play a variety of players. We try and mix it with older end and younger end, and by that, it's the over 40s and then the under 20s. We don't really have anyone in that in between at the moment, but all the younger lads are a year older now, year better, year stronger. They've all trained hard over the winter. So hopefully the likes of me won't be needed for much longer, and then I can relax and watch them take us further on. But yeah, we have a good balance. We try and bring them through. But yeah, overall we had a good season. I think we played 25 players almost in the second team last year all the way through. So maybe if we had a little bit more consistency, we might have won the league. But no, we were happy with everything really.
Yeah, and I watched you last season, and you played obviously very well. You had, like you said, the more senior players, and you had the players who were under 18 of those in the 18, 19, 20s. So obviously you had a pretty decent squad. Obviously missing that between 20 to 40s, like you said, but obviously you got the other senior players to help guide the junior players in. But what did you think were the big helping success last season? I know you had occasionally had a few second teamers come into third team to help out. It's not ideal for either team. How when I know like Faz, for example, moving to the first team last season for a few games and a couple others. When that does happen, how would you say your team reacts? Because you got maybe new 13, 14, 15 years coming into that team and getting that opportunity. How would you say you react to a situation like that?
Yeah, I think we're lucky that we have quite a depth in the junior cricket. We also have a third team who our development team they're called really now. So a lot of the younger end, so the 13, 14 year olds, 15-year olds who aren't playing regular second team cricket, they're playing regular cricket in that. So when they have to move across and they're playing second, they're used to the longer format. They play 40 overs a side, I think. So they're kind of used to it. So there are those fringe players who are waiting in the wings to come in. And like I said, I think they're all a year older now. So like I said, the older end are going to get taken over and they're going to start bossing it, I think, more than we are. So we're lucky in that respect that the junior setup's always been really good at Atherton.
Yeah. And I'm looking at your bowling from last season. You had, some plays Wayne Cook, Nutty as well, who, is, very experienced player, very consistent player. And, you had, a few spinners, but I do want to mention him because when I first played against Atherton quite a few years ago, and he run up, that's the most deceptive ball I've ever played against Tom Mather. The way he runs up and balls it, and I don't know, just slow and I don't know how to describe it, but it is very. When I first saw him, the most deceptive ball I've ever played against, and he does take a lot of wickets. I think he took over 5 wickets last season. How nice is it to have someone like that in your team who teams might say I'm going to get runs out of him, but he actually takes a wicket.
But Tom Mather, aka the Sheep. Um, yeah, do you know what? It's brilliant having someone like that because, especially moving into sort of like a new league. I know we've been a few years now, but people haven't seen that before. So it comes off quite a big run. I mean, it's shorter now. I think he's getting older. He must get tired running in. But the way to describe it is he can bowl in reverse. So he sort of lets go of the ball and it never arrives. So the amount of batsmen who were chatting and they're like, "What do I do with this? I don't know what to do with this." But yeah, absolutely. Not many teams have a bowler like Tom, and not many people have faced it. So I think just to come on in a bit of variation, he defines the word variation.
Mm. I think it's a bit similar situation to Ashley Bridge. Obviously, we've got Rami Patel, who is also a very unique bowler in that way, and he takes quite a lot of wickets. So it's obviously someone nice to have in your team. But you're looking ahead to this season. I think it starts 3 weeks on Saturday. We'll start. And we'll start your first team. So can you just talk about your expectations, your new signings, pro and overseas news?
Yeah, expectations. Obviously, we're aiming to get promoted again. We think we're good enough to compete in that top division, so we'd like to get promoted this year, get back in there. We've got a new pro this year. He's coming from India. He's a batting all rounder. So we're looking forward to him coming. Sarwan's just signed. He's a batting all rounder also. So we made a few good signings. Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Hmm. And sees Jermaine staying as well.
Yeah, Jermaine's back as well. Yeah, I forgot about Jermaine. Yeah, he's back. So
Brilliant. How obviously he's been there for a couple of years now. How good is it to have someone like him in the team who's a very good baller, but also can bat as well. And when I spoke to, John and Tony, they were saying how good he's embedded into the club, a bit with the juniors, the seniors. He has quite a lot of passion for Atherton Cricket Club.
yeah, he loves the club. He's great for us on and off the field. And obviously, this is his third year with us now. So we love having him. He's good with me on the pitch. He helps me on the pitch with decisions or the way we play the game. And then off the pitch, he loves it with the juniors, training, everything gets involved. So he's great for the club.
And now we'll go into your second team. So, Mike, can you just go through your expectations and everything for the new season?
Yeah, I mean, expectations wise, is to compete. He moved up the division. It's going to be slightly more competitive. The aim is to get promoted. The aim should always be to get promoted, shouldn't it? Like I said, the younger end are all a year older. Been watching them pre-season training. They all look like they've come on. So I don't see why we're not going to compete with everyone. And like I said, the aim is to be promoted.
Yeah. And, we mentioned before about your experience in the second team. You've got players like Nutty, Dale, and then, you've got, the young juniors in that team. How do that contribute to your success on the field with by having these juniors coming into the team and having, if you get a young seamer and they can look up to Nutty and say, how do you have any advice for me? How does that contribute to your success?
It's great, isn't it? Because the team gels really well. The youngsters do look up to us. I think when you get that little bit older as well, when you're 13, 14, there's maybe, even 15, you know everything about cricket, don't you? They should write a book and then look back at it. Um, but then they get that year older and all of a sudden they realise that the experience does count for something. And actually, if they listen a little bit, all we're trying to do is improve their game. Um, but, I think there's competitiveness, like you say, Nutty and I think Tom both in the leading top four wicket takers last year. Um, so, they've something to aim for, haven't they? And I think we are going to have quite a bit of competition for places in the second team this year. It's going to be really good.
Mm. And looking in, the winter nets that's been going on for the last couple months now. Is there any players you've seen or you saw even back in the last season who you really think is going to have a breakthrough year this year, whether it's in the first team, seconds, thirds? Is there any juniors coming through that you're looking really promising?
Yeah, there's a few. You've got obviously you mentioned before Louis Faz, who's probably going to hopefully start in the first team this year. I think he did enough last year to sort of solidify a place. Second team wise, you've got Archie Stokes, Killian Clark, Harrison, Sam Fearick, Dom Charlton, who's going to come through and play. All these players, they've all come on leaps and bounds from what I've seen. So it's going to be a good year.
Brilliant. And one of your junior players who had a big jump last year, Charlie Gridecki was injured at the start of the year. So I don't know whether that it was pre-planned, but Jack Fiat was keeping, I think, majority of, not all of last season in the first. You know, Jack, how did he feel like he did last season? Keeping to, he's going from, some decent ballers in their own right in the second team, but you're going from that to, some very, very good ballers in the first team. And you might probably have a bit more expectation as well, playing in the first.
Yeah, it's like I said, there's that bit more pressure. It's sort of in second team, it would have been stuck to the stumps a lot of the time. And then in first team, he's obviously got to stand back. We had JB, Atik, Shane, who bowled pace, and he was stood back a lot of the time, probably quicker than to what he's ever kept in. So yeah, he did well. He surprised us all, and he's doing well.
Brilliant. And another good bowler, you've had for the last few years is Zishan Aslam. 47 wickets last season, 60 wickets, the year before, and also is a decent bat. You can score your runs down the order. as captain, how nice it to just chuck a ball to him, he's going to take wickets and more than likely keep the score down as well.
Yeah, he's just so reliable. You can open the ball with him. He can bowl in the middle overs, or he can bowl at the end, and you know what you're going to get out of him. He'll rarely go up more than three or four and over, and like you say, he's always a threat to get us a wicket. So it's great to have someone like him.
Brilliant. And the NWCL now is in its fourth year, I think, third or fourth year. So, when that move was announced, moving from the Bolton League to the Northwest League, and we've lost, a couple of clubs now. But, at the time, how did he feel about the decision? Do you think it was, a good move? Or and how's your thoughts changed over time as well?
Yeah, I was looking forward to it because obviously there's loads of new grounds and new teams that we hadn't been to, and we've enjoyed going to all these new grounds and having a drink with new people we'd never met before or played against. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then like the format, the promotion relegation, I think it encourages teams to strengthen to try and get promoted or to try and stay in that top division. So it's good. It increases the standard, and we're enjoying it.
And so, what about yourself, Mike? How did you feel the move?
Yeah, the move was essential, wasn't it, for the preservation of cricket. You can carry on trying to sort of salvage dying leagues, unfortunately, but this doesn't, and it brought two leagues together. It's worked really well, like you said. Everyone loves going to a new ground and playing against different people you've never played against before. It gets sometimes a little bit repetitive, doesn't it, when you play against the same teams all the time? And like Jack says, second team as well, promotion, relegation, always gives you something to fight for. Yeah, we're really enjoying it.
Brilliant. And I'm gonna assume this, but you're sort of Harrison Tomlinson playing for the junior setup. Is that right?
Yes, that is my child. Yes.
Brilliant. I just wanted to double check. From speaking to a few people at Atherton, he's pushed on the last few years, and I think he's in around the second team setup. When he was growing up and as a parent, how difficult, easy do you think it was to kind of get him around the grounds? Everton a bit in the ball league, a bit out the way side a bit, so you probably for your away game, you're probably traveling a bit more than other clubs do. And when you are coaching him, I think sometimes I spoke to Craig Naylor, and he felt that the parents sometimes their own child sometimes a bit they don't really like being coached by their own parents, prefer being coached by the coaches at the club who aren't the parents. How did you think of that when he was growing up and even now?
So it Coaching Harrison, I might as well not bother. Whatever I tell him, I know nothing. I might as well have never played cricket at all. But for example, if Jack told him the exact same thing, he'll take it on board and swallows it soaks it up like a sponge. So I think this is probably every father-son relationship where don't listen to what your dad says because he knows nothing. But so I don't really tell him anything anymore. I let everyone else deal with him because it's far easier. I just chauffeur him round.
Brilliant. And Atherton Cricket Club. I've always been very complimentary of Atherton. It's such a nice ground. It's quite a big ground as well. You got your nets, you got a nice clubhouse. How would you both describe Atherton as a club, and how nice it be playing at home on a Saturday Sunday?
Yeah, I love playing at Atherton. I love the club. It's just a nice family-friendly club. Everyone sort of buys into the ideas, and we all have a drink after games. During the week, we all train hard. So, and we try and promote our juniors as much as we can. Like there's a lot of lads, like you were saying before, coming through into the second team. He'll eventually come into the first team. So, it's a good club.
Right, what you, Mike?
Yeah, just echo what Jack said. Family friendly. We're welcoming. It's a nice environment. Friday nights, juniors. There's probably 80, 90 juniors down. All the parents are sat at the front. We've a girls team now. Who are getting fully established and got a fixture list. It's brilliant. It's thriving at the moment and just going from strength to strength.
Fantastic. If anyone watching this, you've got a child who wants to be a bit more active, and you live near Everton, the club right there, you can, really learn a lot from and really, engage with the club, and it's, fantastic to see. But lastly, we've got some quick fire questions. We've done this with a few guests, and we'll start with Jack and Mike. You can give your answer. So, the best amateur you played with and against.
Best amateur played with would probably have to be JB, our overseas. I'm not sure who the best amateur player against is. I'm not sure about that. I have to think.
Well, for me, so like I said, I've not played much first team cricket. I just helped out over the years when required. But best amateur I've probably seen and played with, a bit old school, like Philip West, years gone by, absolute class batter. Watched Kyle Brown when he was 16 scoring 1,000 runs in the first team. Not many people done that. Um, Amateur wise, at my like second team level, there was always people who you feared playing for you. What one was Paul Craig at Little Alton when you used to go and you just think we were watching him walk in, and it was like, oh God, don't let him get in. And then next minute the ball would disappear over them trees into the housing estate. Yeah, frightening at 13 years old.
Wow. And each of yours favourite cricketing memory.
Mine'd probably be getting my first 100, and probably that's it. Yeah.
Was that?
What? Sorry.
When was that and who was it against?
Oh, it was for the district team when I was junior. Not sure who it was against.
You got 100 in first team cricket yet?
No, no. Hopefully this year.
Fingers crossed. And back you, Mike, what's your favourite cricketing memory?
I'll go instead of my favorite as an achievement for me. I'll go for my funniest cricketing memory. Um, so we were playing Daisy Hill. I won't mention who it was, but lad was running into bowl, and he's what I describe as collapsed as he went into bowl, and just gone face first into the track. So everyone stopped, heart in mouth a minute, thinking, he's collapsed here. What's gone on? Go up, everyone's run across. And as he looks up, he's got grass in his teeth, and it was like a cartoon moment. And I was going, "Oh, you all right?" And he just went, "Yeah, I forgot to put my front foot down." So he jumped up to bowl and just smashed, like, forgot to put his front foot down, smashed his face into the turf. So we've all kind of settled down and all rebooting ourselves. He runs in next ball. I'm keeping wicket. I can't see. I've got tears in my eyes. Completely miss it and get hit in the box next ball. So I'm on the floor next ball to that. But that's probably my funniest cricketing moment.
Wow, that's brilliant. And lastly, each of your biggest pet peeve in cricket.
Uh, Probably massive cricket bags you take up, and they take up all the space in the changing room.
I agree with that, definitely.
For me, second team cricket with one umpire
Yeah, yeah, it's not
makes
ideal,
life.
is it?
No, it's hard getting umpires, we all know, but we've been not. I mean, I'm sure lots of second teams have been the same, but last year, I witnessed howling decisions by teams who didn't give people out, and it's not aimed at anyone in particular, and then it creates a retaliation, doesn't it? That then someone for you don't give a wicket that should be given. I just think if we have two umpires, it just eliminates all that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I think, the biggest problem we see with umpires now is that not many, former players who retire going into umpiring, very big problem with, live streaming. And obviously, I think people think generally umpires probably don't get, treated well if they make a bad decision or they just, whether you disagree with the decision, they probably get a bit too much grief, until like actual umpires, not club nominated ones, so I think more umpires can get through of that will translate into more for second team. I think that's something I think we'll be looking at in the coming years, not just in our league. I think that's every league across the country. But yeah, well, I think that's other quick fire questions. Coming into the season now, there's a few weeks left. How excited are you guys? For the season, and and who do you play your first game?
Yeah, I can't wait to get going now. We've been training for a few weeks. We've been doing a few runs here and there, so looking forward to getting going. We play Baxenden first game. We missed the first week of the season because of the number of teams in the league. So, well, we play friendly. We play friendly the week before, and then straight into Baxenden. So, can't wait.
It's about you, Mike. How excited are you?
Yeah, same. Can't wait to get going. It's always a long winter, isn't it? You get to the end of the season and I think you're glad of the rest, and then a month later, you're counting the days down till it starts again. But yeah, everyone's excited and up for it. Everyone's raring to go. I think we've got Fenner Skulls away first game when we do play on that first week, which is the 18th.
Brilliant, yeah, and I agree with you there. You don't season finishes, you're just you're happy it finishes, and then you're getting towards Christmas time, and I think it just really just slows up now until April. We've had the Cricket World Cup on. I wouldn't say how England performance has been. We got to the semi final, but I know the IPL starts in a couple of days, I think. So hopefully that will give us something to watch. Until the season starts and a few weeks after that as well. But I think that's everything I have. Is anything that you guys want to mention before we finish?
No, I'm all right.
Yeah, no, just looking forward to it. Let's hope everyone has a good season.
Brilliant. So thank you for coming on, and I wish Atherton the best of luck for this season.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you.